So, in yesterday's Resident Evil video, I alluded to the fact that I would make a follow up about how I would write a Resident Evil story. And I'm going to just do this off the dome because I've thought about this since the Resident Evil 2 remake was announced. This is how I would write this story. Focusing solely on the mansion incident and the outbreak in Raccoon City, how I would how I would focus it, it'd be told over 3 seasons. Season one would be the lead up to and the mansion incident itself, and seeing the conclusion of that. Season two then would be Resident Evil 3. I'd want to tell it in a linear fashion. I'd show some of the extra scenes like in between, and I'll get more in detail when we go to it. But I would cover the stuff in between Resident Evil 1 and Resident Evil 3, and then I'd show the actual outbreak, and then just play it linearly, and then finish off with Resident Evil 2, and then you have to flip back and forth between 2 and 3, just the way that the stories are structured. And then once that is ended, then you're at a point where your focus can expand and you can have spin-offs if you want or whatever. But this is exactly how I would do it. And it's unique because one thing that we as Resident Evil players know is that every single game you have journals, and what you are doing is piecing through, you're going through this nightmare and piecing together what happened from these people's journal entries. And so, since this is a movie, I think, or not a movie, but a show, and it gives you a lot more runtime and leeway with storytelling, I think the best way to structure that would be to show and use the first half of the season, because the way TV is structured, you have the mid season finale, at least since the 2010s. That's how it's been. So the first half of season one would be literally dedicating an episode to a journal entry, or you take multiple journal entries and you just show these stories pace out over time. I think the very first thing you would want to do is go back in time to tell George Trevor's story, right? You start off with him getting hunted at the Spencer estate and lamenting about how it all came to pass, that with the abduction of Jessica Trevor and Lisa Trevor. You show that initial thing, everyone arriving and Spencer splitting them up, and then them getting tested on, and you just see the progression as time goes on for that first pilot episode. Now, you're not getting zombies, you're not getting monsters, but you're laying the foundation of what the Umbrella Corporation is. Then you take that and you just expand. You then show the Keeper's Diary, and you show all the notes from the different scientists, and you piece together what happened, and you just show that downfall. And so what you are left with is a linear story that is easy to follow, of all these characters that you get to know, and you see them start succumbing to the virus. You start seeing them turn into zombies. And these are people that you are now attached to because you got to watch them for an episode or two. You got to know them at least a little bit before they turned into The Walking Dead. Then at the mid-season finale, what you get is the final guard falling as all communication is cut, and then you get the zombies walking into the forest. You get that shot of the dogs, the Cerberus, running into Raccoon Forest. All the experiments are escaping into the forest, and then that's the final shot of the mid-season finale. When the mid-season premiere begins, what you have then is you start off with the news reports of everyone dying, of everything getting ready to, the stars getting ready to lock and to load and to go out there. Me personally, I'm not a huge fan of Zero. I've talked about that at length. It doesn't, in my own head canon, it's not even canon because it's so contradictory in itself. So I would opt to skip that and go directly into Resident Evil 1, and I would show the I do it just like SD Perry does in the Umbrella Conspiracy book, which if you haven't read it, listen to it. It's a fantastic story. Anyways, you get Bravo team going out at like dusk, and then you get the helicopter engine going down, and Brad getting the call over the radio, and then the Stars Alpha team mobilizing immediately and going out there to search for their fellow colleagues, and then the nightmare begins, right? And then you tell that story over the course of, however many episodes. Maybe designate an episode to a puzzle or something like that, completing a puzzle. Maybe that's how you flesh that out. But either way, you tell the story of one in a coherent manner, just piecing it together, doing good good horror tropes, and you get the zombies, you get the monsters, you get everything being uncovered over time, and then you get the big, the betrayal, the boss fight. You get everyone escaping. You get the mansion exploding. You get the revelation, and the final shot of season. And here's the thing: is as they're going through, you can still put in like the moments where the characters find the journal entries, and you use that moment to cut to the other character to see what they're doing. And then when they run into each other or whatever happens, they then talk to each other like, oh, so and so did this. Like, they just make passing mentions of what has happened in their dialogue. Like, that would just be really cool to see. So then in the finale of season 1, what you have then is you have the stars returning. You have the canon survivors of that incident. There's Barry, there's Rebecca, there's Jill, and there's Chris. We only had 4 survivors of that. Well, technically 5, including Wesker, but that was something that is he's not a good guy, so to speak, and that wasn't always the plan. But anyways, moving forward, I would say the final shots you get are them debriefing. They get back, and you get to really experience that visceral sort of realization set in when Irons is really like just going up against them. He's like a brick wall, and he is not supportive of them in any way, shape, or form. And you can kind of in the beginning introduce Irons as a guy who is very shady, but then, and you already know that people don't have a high opinion of him, but then at the final shot you get to see like an Umbrella paycheck like in his desk or whatever as he's filing the report, or hiding the report, or whatever he does. And then that would leave you like a sense of dread, just like, oh no. And in the season 2 beginning, what I would do is I would open on Irons, and Irons is in his office, surrounded by all his animal trophies, and he is looking over a case. He's looking over case notes, and you think that it's about a murderer that got away. And he's flipping through everything late at night, and you splice between him looking at that and like Chris getting ready to leave and go to Europe, and you just have like this opening montage scene where we get to see the survivors of the mansion incident, what they're up to, and then cut back to Chief Irons, and then what you see is it's actually him with little trophies that he has, because in canon he is a murderer. At least in the original. Canon in the remakes is kind of wild, but and they don't really explore that very much. But in the original telling, he was a psychopath, just a murderer. It was alluded to that, like there was just this darkness that he could not keep a control of, and he eventually succumbs to it, and that's why the RPD falls, and that's what we'll see. So we'll start to see then. In the first episode, the stars get completely lambasted and just, dragged through the mud, disavowed, all this stuff. And then slowly over time, we get to see attacks happen. We get to see what's happening with William Birkin and Annette Birkin. and the USS, the Umbrella Security Service. And we get to see all these different aspects that lead up to the virus spilling, because strange, it smells like something's burning. But yeah, what I would do then is, just go from place to place. You hop from perspective to perspective, and throughout the first quarter of the season, you would show everything leading up to William Birkin injecting himself with the virus, the G virus, after he gets shot, and then he attacks Alpha Team and leaks the virus throughout. Then the first couple episodes after that, you get attacks start and symptoms starting to flare up. You see Jill understanding and seeing these symptoms, and Barry Burton understanding like what is actually happening, and you get to just then in real time explore the outbreak and what is happening, step by step. Everything that we have only heard about, we get to actually see in real time. And then, as in the mid-season finale, everything is going to crap, and we get September 28th, and we get Jill escaping, kicking off Resident Evil 3 proper, and you end after that first hour of OGRE3 gameplay where you run into Nemesis, and that's the final scene. As he jumps down, he grabs Brad, just shoves his tentacle through his face. You're like, oh my god, and then he turns around. Looks at Jill close up to the camera, and he just says stars, and then cut to black, and that's your mid-season finale. So then, season 2, mid-season premiere, you start off with that Nemesis fight. You start off with her going through the RPD, him hunting her, chasing her down, all that stuff. And I'm a guy who likes OGRE3 better than the remake, so I would tell. Wow, there was a bird that just flew like right like above my head. It was crazy. Anyways, I'm distracted. So then, the season 3, season 2, mid-season premiere. You get all of this going through. Whoa. That was a good thunder strike, thunder roll. But anyways, you get to see that kickoff proper, and then we get to tell the story of Resident Evil 3 up until what I would say, and this is the perfect point to do it, as my mind is going. You go from the events of Resident Evil 3, and you flip-flop to the police station, actually in real time getting taken down. Well, actually, I guess you would have done that before the Resident Evil 3 kickoff proper. You would have seen that in the couple episodes leading up to that, because when you visit the RPD, or you can even shift it around, there's a bunch of leeway here, but when you visit the RPD in RE3 OG, it's already abandoned, it's already fallen, but you could change that to where Jill shows up and there's still officers holding out, and she's here just like, look, there's a monster on the loose, I need to get out of here. And you could just kind of mix the stories from whatever scenario it was in Outbreak where they were in the RPD and Resident Evil 3. You could kind of do that if you wanted to. It'd be really cool to see Jill and Marvin, talk. But either way, you then show everything from the Nemesis first encounter and everything in the RPD up to the clock tower. And you think you're going to get out. This is the season finale of season 2. They're at the clock tower. Nemesis shoots the helicopter down, and there's a big battle, and you think the Nemesis dies, but Jill gets infected, and then it's just like Carlos takes her inside into the chapel, and you think Nemesis is down, but season 2 finale is Carlos vowing to go out into the city, to brave the city, and get her the vaccine. So that's a good cliffhanger to end on. I would end it there personally, because you could do one of two things. You could either end it there, or the final episode of season 2 would be Carlos going to get the vaccine, coming back, and giving it to Jill. But I think personally, this is just the way I like to tell stories and frame them. you always want to keep it so that people keep coming back. You want to end your chapter on a cliffhanger. A chapter is an episode. You want to end your episode on a cliffhanger, to just ensure that the people keep reading, or keep ingesting the content, watching, reading, however they're consuming the content. You want to ensure that they keep coming back for more. So, what you do then at that point is you go. I would end it there because it's a good cliffhanger. You think the Nemesis is dead. You make people wait for an entire season, or an entire however long it takes to produce the next season. For Carlos to, you open with Carlos going to the hospital, playing that whole thing, coming back, and the Nemesis is alive, and he's trying to stop you from helping her. But you take him down. I would have Carlos take him down again, or make him flee, and then give Jill the actual injection, and then it's just a waiting game. And as the waiting game then takes place, then you have Leon come in. Then you have Claire come in. You then start telling the story of 2, with Leon meeting Ada, and Claire meeting Sherry. And in the mid-season finale of that, you have... Let's see. So at this point in the story, and as time has gone on, it would have been a long time since we've seen William Birkin, and I think the mid-season finale of season 3 would be a great point to reintroduce that character. Maybe that's the death of Ben Bertolucci, and not the RE2 remake telling where he gets crushed by Mr. X's hand. I don't know. I tend to like to go to the RE2, like the OG games, for the retelling. That's what I'm more. Even though I like the remakes, like the RE Engine remakes, more to play, I prefer the story structure of the OG trilogy. I don't know. That's just who I am as a person. But however way you want to go with it, whether you do tell the remake story of Leon, which canonically is Leon A, and Claire B, or if you want to go with the OG canon, which I think the fandom pretty much has settled on it being Claire A, Leon B for the original canon. Either way, you have Leon meeting Marvin, and in the mid-season finale, you have William Birkin reappearing. That's how I would structure it, because he doesn't appear until you're in the sewers. Like, you've already escaped the RPD. So the first half of that season, of season 1, could be them escaping into the sewers. Then you start... Now, if you want to tell it linearly, see, this is where it gets fun. Because if you want to tell a linear story and you want to tell it how it happens, then that entire day that Jill is resting, to then, after she got the vaccine, that's when RE2 takes place. It takes place over that night. Sorry about that. Anyways, so you stick with RE2, and this is what I would do. You stick with RE2, and mid-season finale is where Birkin shows up. And you spend up until 2 episodes before the final season, like, you might splice in between, like, realistically, where Carlos and Jill are, and you can get some of their conversations. You might even cut to Nikolai, see what he's up to in the city. There's so many different stories you could cut to and tell. If you wanted to include Outbreak characters, that is something that you could even do as well. Like, maybe have Kevin in the RPD in season 2 when things are going crazy. But in season 3, since we're focusing on RE2, from the mid-season finale onto until I would say 2 episodes before the ending of RE3, you would then have Resident Evil 2 end. You would see Claire and Leon and Sherry escape the Umbrella Lab nest, or whatever you want to call it. They get out of Dodge, and they kill William Birkin, and you see them actually get picked up and we will see the debrief happen in a little bit. So they get picked up, and we think everything's hunky dory. We flip back to Jill and Carlos, and Jill is finally on her feet. Carlos has gotten the call that they're gonna nuke the city, and they need to get out of Dodge. And so then from there, you have Jill go to the chemical plant or go to Nest. However way you want to play it, whether it be the remake or whether you go with OG. I like the OG. OG's better. OGRE3 is so much better. So you have her go to the chemical plant, the disposal facility, and fight Nemi right there, and solve the issue with Nikolai, and get picked up and leave as the nuke is about to go off. And then what you have is we would then flip back to Leon and Claire as they are debriefing, and Leon then, trades his freedom to the US government. Because this is what happened in canon. The reason that Leon became a DSO agent or worked for the government is because he was blackmailed to do so for Sherry Birkin's safety. So you do those things. You see those things start to play out, and then you are open to a bunch of possibilities. You end season 3. The final shot of season 3 is the same shot that you get in Outbreak. I think it's file number 2, where you see the destroyed Raccoon City ruins and a lab in the middle of the destruction of the crater while they are literally just still conducting experiments, still keeping an eye on things. Then you can have a spin-off series that is in between the main season 3 and 4 if you want to do Code Veronica to follow up on that, or what have you. But you could then do the courtroom drama that I was thinking about. Then you can also do Resident Evil Code Veronica. You could do Resident Evil 4. You could, if the seasons allowed it and the stories were there to tell, you could then just have whatever spin-off slotted in, and as the main continuity continued. And it would do well because it's a compelling story. At least the Raccoon City arc is very compelling, and all of that. And I just think it's absolutely crazy that this has not been pitched. This is not something that someone has thought of. You see a studio like Constantine just waste so much time slapping together the silliest script that has nothing to do with Resident Evil, and it just, I don't know, just doing a half-assed job through and through is what it seems like they're doing. And I don't know if it's poor planning. I don't know if it's because they're bringing in people to work on the source material or on the project that doesn't understand the source material, or what. It's a very frustrating thing to see, especially when, this is something that I crafted in a day. Now, obviously, it's not ironed out. There's still a lot of things to do, like to iron out, but it's still compelling the way it's structured in my head, and the way you could tell that story is very amazing and vivid. Like, I just don't understand. Like, the story tells itself. It's been told in the games, and what we want is a linear, faithful adaptation, recreation of such a compelling story so that more people can experience it. But either way, guys, that is how I would structure a very tight 2 to 3 season story detailing the rise of Umbrella, the downfall of Raccoon City, and just the good people trying to survive a corporate nightmare. And I would love to hear your feedback on it. Whatever you think, let me know. My feelings won't be hurt whatsoever. If you don't like it, whether you like it, don't like it, please comment below. Please let me know, please. And if you like it, give it a like. If you don't like it, thumbs it down. Won't hurt me one way or the other. I would love to hear from you all. And for more videos like this, be sure to subscribe because I'm coming at you very regularly with stuff. Just chilling on the patio, sharing my thoughts. Whether it be about Resident Evil, whether it be about video games as a whole, whether it be about life philosophy. I will be here and I will share my thoughts. So stay tuned. Got a lot of stuff coming. So again, from the bottom of my heart, if you made it this far, thank you so much. It means the world to me. And stay tuned. So until the next time, guys, my name is Ken, and I will see you then.